try. You're putting pressure on me now, though. No. I think we can. You guys ready? I think I'm ready. All right. My mic was on. All right. All right, we'll call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6 o'clock. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All committee members are present. With that, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of November 15th, 2021. All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Is there anyone on here for public comment tonight? One online? Okay. Great, thank you. So with that, we'll move on to new business. Item A, Resolution 1-2022, Germantown Municipal Employee Union Local 730 contract. And who's taking that one? Aaron?
So this is just the request to go to the board for the union contract. It's a 2.3% wage increase, and that's all that's going before the committee today.
Okay, so that's the only change or whatever to the entire contract, right? 2.3% increase for that.
I'll move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve or move this forward to the village board. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that. Item B, job description updates. Water utility foreman designated operator.
Yes, so this is for the current designated operator position. So the job description has not been changed for quite a while. And after going through with the superintendent, the position and what it entails, we're requesting that it be changed slightly. Currently, it's a union position, and we would be requesting that it goes to a non-union position, so an exempt position. I have some information in here about that it has, it helps in the hiring and firing and assignments of the crew. And so it does a lot of the things that are necessary to be considered exempt from a federal standpoint. We would be asking that in the salary range of salary range 4. And we are requesting that this be moved to.
It's not a new position, right?
It's not a new position. Nope.
Revamp of the.
Yes.
And
yes.
specifically, that's the main thing. That's the difference is what you just pointed out. Or is there anything else in here that's really different from before?
You know, we included some of the things that the position actually does. You know, there were some changes within the job position. I don't know if you want to go into some of those, Paul. But
Sure. I was going to ask you next if you wanted to make any comments. So
Sure.
you can.
So just since my short 4 years here, the scope of the utility to me has grown, and to offset a lot of that administrative work is putting it on this position. Not only what Aaron mentioned about the hiring and firing, a lot of budgetary stuff, budget contracts, overseeing projects more. I just need more office versus more field. So it's kind of a blend, 60-40, 80-20, depends on the projects, depends on needs out in the field versus administrative work. So I'm changing it because of my needs, and just the scope of the utilities getting bigger and more work is required.
Sure. Committee, we'll go to Trustee Myers first.
How many employees do you have?
Including myself, 6.
And I see pay grade 4. What can you give me the range in that? What that represents? please?
Yes, that's 62,976 to 85,654.
A little bit slower, if I could please.
Huh?
Write that fast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. 62,976 to 85,654.
Thank you. Uh, Another question, let's see if I can remember what it was. I'll pass it this time.
Okay, wait, trustee Nyren.
Um, Paul, how much supervision of employees do these positions hold?
Quite a bit. So this position actually delegates daily the work duties every day. When he's gone, I take over a lot of that role, but he oversees the field work day to day, along with the office end of things, the administrative work on it.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I thought I saw when I skimmed these a little bit. I guess the question I always have is what kind of training do we give employees to manage employees? Because that's a big part of the job and how they deal with employees.
Yeah, that's a great question. This person has been in the role, so he's been doing this role over 10 years. So a lot of it is on the job.
Yep.
There is classes that are offered for administrative supervisory stuff that we can look at, but I think he does a real good job out in the field supervising staff.
Okay,
And I'm just going to say too, that now that we're with Civic Property Insurance, they have a lot of available classes on leadership and managing. So.
okay, thank you.
Trustee Kaminsky, and then I'll go back to trustee Myers.
Question. Person currently in that position, what is the pay grade now? What is the
I
salary?
think it was pay grade 16. I don't have
What is
that.
the salary?
Old system pay grade.
Yeah, it's the old
It
system.
was very close to this one. So.
I don't know what the top and bottom
I'm
was.
sorry, I don't know what it would.
That'd be good to know.
But,
I mean,
it
coming in
was-
when we're asking for something like this, I would love to know that. It's the most important thing. And also to highlight the changes next time in how the job description has changed would be awesome.
Okay, sure. And what he's making now is just currently under the low point of pay grade 4.
Okay, so it's not going to be a big leap or anything that we're going to be surprised by.
No.
Okay.
Trustee Myers.
I would echo the same response that you heard from Terry, please. In regard to underlining the areas where
Highlight the
the
changes.
change is such, it just makes it easier to find as such. Otherwise, you're just looking through the whole thing rather than highlighting your time to look at that. Appreciate that, please, in the future. The other thing, non-union. Was it union before? How did this
Correct.
change?
Yeah, I've been encouraging the person to get out of the union just because of the changes that have been asking him to do in that role
In other words, the other 5 are in
are in the union, correct?
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Another point I have to make is because he's in the union, he wasn't actually part of a pay grade beforehand. So that's why that information isn't right here. So he was part of
Thank
the
you.
union. So.
All right, and this is a recommendation to go to the board, is that right?
Right.
Okay. With that, I guess I would entertain a motion or
Motion
any
to
other
approve,
questions.
please.
I'll second.
All right, we have motion to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Do we want discussion on this at the village board meeting? This isn't on tonight, no. Okay.
That's pretty straightforward. I
I
think we
would think
vetted it well.
Certainly. I agree.
Consent adjourned.
Sounds good. With
Yeah,
that,
no.
we'll move to the item C, which is another job description for the maintenance shop foreman.
So this one had gone before you guys before I actually arrived on here. You had started the discussion of creating this position. It was approved within the village budget, and it's to make the maintenance. So if you look at that chart that's actually on Paul's item, it makes the mechanic 2 into this maintenance shop foreman. And then it would create 2 mechanic 1 positions underneath.
This is, we're adding a position, right?
Correct.
the maintenance shop.
And during the budget process, a position was added for half the year.
For half the year, okay.
Yep. And this maintenance shop foreman would just be taking a current employee and putting them into that position. And this again has to go with the increase and growth of this community.
Is this
And the
also
needs.
going from non-union, I mean, union to non-union? Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yes, trustee Myers.
What is the pay for this going to be? Or what,
That's the same as the previous one.
You're right. We did not put that in
what grade?
I'm sorry. 71,000.
One more time?
Oh, the current?
71,000.
Yeah, I just don't remember. It's not 12. That is a grade 1? Or?
That would be in the same grade, in the grade 4.
Go. Nothing more.
If not, I'll entertain a motion for this.
I'll move for the approval of the job description updates for the maintenance shop foreman.
A second.
All right, any further discussion on the motion to approve? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, we will move to item D, capital data update.
We have the PowerPoint. Didn't bring
We have it in our packet.
oh, it's not up. Oh. So we've had an interesting month with capital data, they've been doing a lot of work. Their initial goal was just to review everything and see where we were. But in that time, they've had to fix a lot of different things too. So, but if we go through this first section, it just shows the summary of the health of the village. And so if you look at this, some of our main issues consist of the network and firewalls, the virtual environment, the storage, and then we have backups and exchange. The only great thing is really our Active Directory. I'm not exactly sure, they told me what DR means, but I'm
Disaster recovery.
disaster recovery. Thank you. I know it wasn't high on their list of things that needed to be fixed right away. But that was another thing. Thank you very much. They also gave a summary of the police department. They're in a very similar situation. The only thing that they have above Village Hall is that their email is currently on an Exchange server instead of on locally hosted. So that's one thing that we hope to resolve in the next few months. They also did one of the fire department, and they show a lot of red as well. The backups, the disaster recovery, the virtual environment, the networks and firewalls and wireless. So we are all taking this into consideration when we're thinking about our next steps and next projects. And so I just wanted to give you a general look at what we're looking at. They have disaster recovery on this page. But our Active Directory is well, and they said that's the meat of our network. And so the fact that that's in really good standings is really good. But we do have a storage issue that we need to resolve, a backup issue, and the fact that our emails are still locally hosted, as well as now with our property insurance company, CivMec, for cyber insurance. They're requiring us to have a few things. They're requiring us to have our multi-factor authentication that we have to put in,
Yep.
and EDR, which I'm sure you could tell me what that stands for again. But
EDR?
EDR, yeah. but it's two things that it's just this, they tried to describe it to me today during our meeting. And it's, I'm not even going to try right now to describe that, but those are two things that they're requiring from us. And so in order to put those two together, we are working with them to make sure that those are in place so that we have our cyber insurance. Endpoint management. Thank you. Endpoint management.
Yeah, cyber insurance is really driving a lot of this.
Mhm.
At my regular job, I had to go through that last week,
Okay.
and it was excruciating how deep they go
Yeah.
in this and what is required now. And it's because of all the ransomware payouts that have had to been made. The premiums are really skewed based on your security. So the better security you have, the cheaper it's going to be.
Exactly. And so that's kind of where we want to focus on, is getting ourselves up to par so that we can protect ourselves from cyber attacks. So, yeah, and so they've been doing a lot of projects. We've been going through and we've been making sure that all the projects, we've been putting them in order. We've been meeting probably once a week, once if not twice a week, by phone or in person, to get some of these things done. Some noticeable accomplishments that they've done in November is establish remote access, relicensing all virtual and hardware servers. They've rebuilt failed PD firewall system. They reconfigured the Village Hall VPN. They configured senior hall networks and resolved fire department server shutdown issues. So that's just an example of some of the things that that have been put in front of them so far. So I just brought this to your attention just to make sure that you guys understand what the IT service is doing so far, and that there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are going on. So I wasn't sure if anybody had time to look at this. They also show the number of tickets. This is something that they're going to give me monthly. So I can always bring it to you to show you this. I can have them come in and present it, which they'd probably do a far better job than I do. But or, you know, I could just not bring this. So it's up to you guys what you want to see from your side of things. But I just wanted to make sure that you understood, you know, what benefit we're getting out of this company so far.
I would like to see a monthly update, maybe not as much as a action item, but at least,
Sure.
you know, as part of the packet for information.
Okay, so just like put this in there and then you guys can look at
Yeah, we
it
can-
as you
we can
want.
talk about it under the reporting aspect of it, I
Okay,
think.
sure. Yeah, we can do that. That's easy.
Trustee Myers.
I was going to say the same thing, and don't take this personally, but why don't you have them do the presentation?
Oh, so you want an actual presentation every month?
I'd like
Or-
to have that because, well, on my particular part, that's not as easy for me to understand. Is this outside of the range of the contract itself?
Well, if I could suggest, I think maybe having them come in once a quarter, we could include the report
That's
on a
fine,
monthly
that's fine. They
basis
can
and have
cover
them.
everything that was going through, that,
Questions, yeah.
right.
That's a good idea.
That'd be fine, 4 times a year rather than 12. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
There isn't any additional cost of the equipment or anything?
No, not yet. Mm-mm.
Thank you.
Nothing out of the
Really,
run.
this first month was just identifying where we're at,
Yep, and what we needed to
putting,
go forward, putting a
putting
project
green,
list
yellow, red
together.
on it, and then from there, they'll take action items and probably prioritize and all that stuff.
Exactly. And it will be on, you know, what's going on currently. So,
Great. Thank you. With that, we'll move to item E, the employee manual.
yes. So for the last couple months, I've been going through the manual and making sure that everything in it is up to speed with the actions that are actually going on around us. A lot of things were outdated. So I thought it would just be good to go through and just update some things that were not correct. Also, there were some things that were added. I added 2 new policies for nursing mothers and voting leave. And then for the bereave and sick pay, we had a discussion with the library about offering it to part-time employees. And there we currently have something where we don't offer some of these leaves until they've been with with the village for 5 years. And so with one way to try to get employees to apply for positions at the library, we thought that might be good to change so that it's as soon as they're hired instead of 5 years later, that they get some of these benefits. So I also, a couple other things that I changed in here was that everybody would be paid on the same days. Currently, we have 2 payrolls, and it really makes things complicated, especially since we have one person doing that. And I think her time could be spent doing a lot of other things. So, so she would appreciate it too if we changed it to 1 payroll for everybody instead of 2. Another thing in there, so currently the health insurance, we don't offer that until somebody's been working. It's 30 days and then the first of the month after that 30 days. It gets a little complicated and a lot of people's insurance only runs out to the end of the month. So then it leaves some people hanging with no insurance for a period of time. So the thought would be to go to starting the insurance as soon as somebody starts and then ending it at the end of the month after they've left the village. So those are just a couple of the things. There were also some other, just minor changes and wording changes and formatting changes. But these were the majority of the big changes that were out there. So, and this is not to be voted on today or even sent to the board. It's just to review and to,
Just informational.
read in your leisure time. And then I'll bring it back in January.
Any, anything you want to address now?
I had some things, but I'll just wait till
Okay.
next month.
Sure. And if you want to email me in advance too, just to make sure that I have some of those answers for you, that'd be nice.
Got it.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item F, budget amendment, police department vehicle repair and maintenance.
And I can cover this one. The police department, as part of their vehicle replacement program this year, sold 3 older vehicles at auction, generating about $2,200 in revenue. This was not a budgeted revenue. It was we weren't sure what we would get for them at the time. They are requesting, they're a little bit short of money in their equipment repair account, and they're asking that that they're allowed to use the revenues above what were budgeted to cover some of those additional expenses. So if the committee approves this, they would see their repair budget increase by $2,200.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion. Any discussion? I mean, I think it's a great thing to do with the money. I'm surprised though, 3 vehicles, $2,200. They were
They're well
pretty
used.
beat up.
Yeah. And actually the exact amount I was looking up is $2,243.
Right. Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, we'll move to, actually, there is no unfinished business, so we'll go to reports. The monthly financial summary. Year-to-date review, we have that.
That is in the packet. And I'll just, the one thing I'll draw the committee's attention to, and with the caveat, with a very significant caveat that that this is, we're still a long ways. There's a lot of transactions of things that have to be entered into the system, but the general fund is projecting out a significant surplus. We did have higher revenues in a number of different areas, particularly in permits and inspection fees. And expenses were lower than budgeted, generally across village departments. So we are expecting to have a healthy surplus at the end of 2021 again.
Trustee Myers.
We will work towards getting it back closer to schedule by having that in March. There's a lot of improvements that we made in the year-end close processes from last year, but it still is a very manual process. And I will say that we'll get it in as close to March as we possibly can.
We'll move on to debt repayment then.
And this item is, again, a standard report for the village, or the committee's approval. It's our review. One of the things I'll also mention as we take a look at that particular report is that we, talking with the committee chair, what we're looking at doing in 2022 is presenting some of the standard reports on a quarterly basis. As we've gone through this past year, there's frequently little or nothing to report on. You'll see that there are some, the letter of credit report, the contracts report. We'll work those in so we cover one each quarter and save some of the committee's time, and it'll allow staff to, and in particular, the item that's going to be out there is the implementation of the new financial management system, that they're going to need to spend extra time doing that. Saving some time on some of the reports every little bit will help towards freeing up staff time.
Trustee Myers.
I was going to say, I was talking to Deanna this morning in regard to that same aspect, because I was wondering where it was, and she had told me what you just mentioned. So that's fine.
Yeah, we've had some, Steve and I have had some discussions on this and thought it would streamline it a little bit. And if there's objections to this, please let us know, and, we can make a different timeline. Good. Okay, with that, we'll move to accounts payable. We actually have 5 weeks in this last AP report. Questions, comments on that? Yes.
And just so the public's aware too, today we did send out over 30,000 in tax refunds. So we're trying to get those through as quickly as possible for residents. And you'll see those reports with next month's agenda. But when you talk to residents, if they have that question, we're working on those as quick as we can. So
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Trustee Myers.
How many more do you think there are? Are you about 75% through it?
well, we've just went through 1 week of tax collections. So we have a long road ahead of us. But for those residents, property owners that were expecting to have a refund, we're trying to get them processed as quick as possible.
All right, with that, we'll move to capital improvement.
I can just mention a couple of highlights here. As far as money that has not been expended yet, there are some pieces of equipment that we've had trouble purchasing. And as the Public Works Committee will be getting some requests at their next meeting to carry over those funds and try to purchase those vehicles next year. The Mequon Road street lighting project is we needed additional funding, and we're going to be rebidding that next year, carrying that money forward and rebidding. But otherwise, the capital improvements program, I think, was been pretty much on track for this year. And I guess the other huge item is the Public Works Campus, which was budgeted. We did not issue bonds for that project yet, but other than that, the capital projects have been very much on track this year.
I know the vehicles are getting pretty hard to come by. Were you able to order that truck, Scott? Wasn't there a GM truck that we approved just recently? Ah. Yeah. Anything else on capital improvements? Great, we've gone through all the agenda items. We will schedule the next meeting and look here. Into January.
Wow.
Which would be our regular board meeting is the 17th, is that right? So we could have our meeting at 6 p.m. on the 17th. Is that okay with everyone? Great, well, Monday the 17th, 6 p.m. All right. With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:31.